Hello, you absolute legends! Final Fantasy VII is undoubtedly one of the greatest and most important video games of all time. Those of you who are a bit older might remember GameFAQs.com. In the late 90s and early 2000s, GameFAQs, or GameFAQs as I called it, was the biggest gaming website period when it came to walkthroughs and message boards. If you wanted to find out how to beat a game, this was the place. Nowadays, YouTube and video tutorials reign supreme. But before videos were widely popular, written walkthroughs like those posted to GameFAQs were the only real option. This is because internet connections were much slower and simple text files were small enough in size to be easily accessible. Back in 2000 and 2001, I even wrote a few FAQs myself. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because if you check the top 100 most popular games on GameFAQs, Final Fantasy VII still ranks pretty highly. And it has been on the most popular games list for almost 10,000 days consecutively. That is over 27 years, and it's been on this list more than any other game in history, with second place being Final Fantasy X, which is trailing by over 1,000 days. Final Fantasy VII is a game that has so much depth and so much to learn that people are still discovering things to this very day. And I'm not just talking about casual gamers, I'm talking about speedrunners as well. Speedruns for Final Fantasy VII are brutal. The standard speedrun on PlayStation is over 6 hours long, and the amount of knowledge that you need to learn to compete at a high level is probably comparable to getting a bachelor degree at university. The runner, Retro, who's actually the person that caught the cheater we will be discussing today, has a tutorial on the any% speedrun that is 60 videos long. It takes years to learn the ins and outs of this game, and top speedrunners know details that would make your head explode. Over a 6-hour speedrun, they can tell you where every single battle will occur, what the enemies will be, what items are the best to use, and they can use specific movement patterns to manipulate and skip certain battles. It's truly incredible what they have managed to achieve. And this is why it would be a pretty stupid idea to try and cheat in this game if you don't know all of the minute details, because a top player will immediately notice if a single thing is out of place. And that's exactly what happened recently when the speedrunner Tiki Liger submitted a speedrun to the Final Fantasy VII rankings. Tiki Liger cheated in a very subtle way that 99.9999% of people would be none the wiser. But when top speedrunner and moderator Retro watched Tiki Liger's run, he immediately spotted something that shouldn't have happened the way it did. And the best part of this is that Retro, or Dash as I'll call him for short, was verifying Tiki Liger's run live on stream. So for the first time that I can recall, we get to see a moderator catch a cheater in real time. And the cherry on top is that the cheater's response to his run coming under some mild scrutiny was one of the worst ways you could possibly respond. In today's video, we will take a look at a very interesting cheating example in one of the most complex and well understood games in history. I really hope you enjoy. Now a massive shout out to this video's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev is hands down the best way to learn programming. It's the best because it makes learning to program as fun as it can be. And we all know the biggest thing stopping you from having a successful career in programming is boredom. Boot.dev integrates earning XP, gaining levels, and completing quests to make it feel as much like a game as possible. Right now, the most popular programming language in the world is Python, so it's the perfect place to start. And courses are structured really logically to make your progress smooth and seamless. But what I personally think is most amazing about Boot.dev is Boots. Boot is a personal AI tutor, and Boot is incredible. It's trained to not give you the answers outright, but rather help you solve problems yourself, which is a much more effective way to learn. And I can go from having no idea what's going on to fully understanding how to solve a problem in just a couple of prompts. So if you have your sights set on a well-paying job and want a career in back-end development, or you just want to learn to program for fun, Boot.dev is the bee's knees. Please click my link in the description or scan the QR code on screen and use code KyleJobs for 25% off your entire first year on an annual plan. And of course, there is a 30-day, no questions asked, money-back guarantee, so there is no reason not to try it out. First, I want to give a big thanks to Dash Retro, who reached out to me after he uncovered this cheater and suggested it might make for an interesting video. So I really appreciate him getting in contact with me and helping me to learn a little bit about the ins and outs of how he managed to spot this particular fake speedrun. Since reaching out to me, he has released his own in-depth video, so please go and support his channel by watching his video and subscribing to his channel after you finish watching my recap. His video provides some more details that I won't cover here, and of course it's important to support the volunteer moderators who make sure that leaderboards are as legitimate as they can be. Admittedly, I'm a bit late to the party in covering this particular cheating scandal, but after my 4.5-hour video last month, I took a bit of a mental break, so I'm sorry if this is not exactly the most cutting-edge video. Because the Final Fantasy VII speedrun is over 6 hours long, I'm not going to break down the entire speedrun. That would take me months to learn, let alone impossible to try and explain it all in a single video. But the important thing we need to know as viewers is that when it comes to the so-called random encounters you experience while playing the game, these aren't really random at all. Every time you start the game, you get the exact same random number of seed, which means if you do the same movement every time, you can plan and predict every single encounter you're going to get for the entire run. And that's exactly what speedrunners do. They know when and where they're going to get encounters, and what mobs the encounters will contain. With this information, they can plan out exactly what attacks to use, what items to use, and it allows them to develop a ton of strategies to get through the game in the most optimal way. And one of the core mechanics that affects these random encounters is the way in which you move. Cloud can either run or walk, and running or walking has a different impact on how encounters are determined. Whenever you move, a value called your danger level increases, and also when you move, a value called your step ID increases at the same time. At pre-designated step ID values, the game checks your danger level, and if your danger level is above a certain value, you'll begin an encounter. When you run, your danger level increases faster than if you walk. This means that if you're always running, you're going to get encounters more often because your danger level will be consistently higher. This might make you think it would be more optimal in that case just to always walk in order to keep your danger level lower, and thus get less encounters. But the problem is that if you walk, you move really slowly, so it will take you much longer to get through the game. In practice, it's almost always better to run because you cover more distance and get through sections quicker. However, there are several places throughout the speedrun where small sections of strategic walking are advantageous. There are times where if you walk for a brief period, your danger level remains low enough to skip an encounter. And as long as the period of walking isn't too long, the time saved by avoiding certain encounters can be greater than the time lost by having to walk. Of course, I am providing a very oversimplified explanation just so that you can understand enough to make the rest of this video digestible. But if you do want a really good breakdown, I will put a link in the description to a video by Dash Retro, who is a 20-minute video solely dedicated to explaining how walking and running affects your danger level and the encounters you experience. The most important takeaway, however, is that speedrunners know when to walk and when to run, and how that manifests in the encounters you ultimately get. Final Fantasy VII speedrunners have the optimal movement patterns understood down to a science, so they will be able to tell you where and what type of encounter you're going to get purely based on the way you move. And if an encounter happens that isn't expected, this suggests something is fishy. And this is where the speedrunner Tiki Liger comes in. Tiki Liger is not a top Final Fantasy speedrunner by any means, but they are definitely a good speedrunner in general. Before this recent unpleasantness, they had over 100 speedruns submitted to Speedrun.com, covering a huge amount of games, and in some of those games, they dominated, like for example, Winback Covert Operations, where they had multiple world records. Tiki Liger has obviously spent a lot of time over the past several years speedrunning speedrunning, which makes his most recent Final Fantasy VII speedrun all the more perplexing. In late October, he submitted a no-slot speedrun on the PlayStation Digital platform, and his speedrun was a time of 7 hours and 10 minutes, which would put him at around 9th place. So this wasn't exactly a new world record or an incredibly fast time by any stretch of the imagination. But what makes this situation very entertaining is the fact that the moderator Dash Retro decided to randomly verify Tiki Liger's run live on stream. Something I've never seen any other moderators do.
Alright, let's check out this run real quick.
I wouldn't be surprised if other moderators have actually done this, but I can't recall this ever resulting in a moderator streaming themselves actually detecting a cheated run in real time. It all started so innocently, and what's really cool is that you get to see how Dash verified that all of the movement was correct, by counting the steps and making sure they line up correctly with the strategy that was being used.
So let's count these steps back here. Like, I want to see how well I can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. That's way overstepped right there. It should be 18 and a half. And am I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 and a half. Okay, no, that's 18 and a half. I was just counting too fast behind the thing. Yeah, that was correct.
And as far as steps were concerned, for the first few hours of the speedrun, things seemed to line up reasonably well. One thing Dash did notice, however, is that Tiki Liger was getting very, very lucky with overworld encounters.
I swear, if this is a one, you have to manip for a one encounter traversal. I feel like this is getting weird. This run has had, like, RNG that you have to manipulate for on every world map traversal. That's crazy.
Tiki Liger was only getting 1 or sometimes 0 encounters while traveling between locations, which is very suspicious. This doesn't immediately mean Tiki Liger was cheating, as encounters on the overworld screen aren't determined by your danger level or the steps you take, so it's usually impossible to know if these things are being manipulated. But Dash did take note that Tiki was getting an insane amount of luck. But in practice, with these encounters, it's basically impossible to prove foul play. Tiki Liger really could have just gotten really lucky. But just before the 4-hour mark, Tiki Liger did something that immediately made Dash's ears perk up. In this section here, when Dash was counting the steps, they appeared way off.
It might be close, but yeah, there you go, as expected. So this battle's happening on this screen. This is really rough for steps. We're getting towards the territory of steps being dead, or steps killing the run. But here we gotta go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. 9 and a half. I feel like you have to do more steps than that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and a half. Am I crazy, or do you have to do more steps than that if you're that far back?
Dash felt as though Tiki Liger didn't do enough steps to avoid a specific encounter. And what's so impressive about the knowledge these speedrunners have is that the encounter in question, the encounter that these specific steps are trying to avoid, doesn't happen until 5 minutes later into the run. But Dash has such a good understanding that he already knew which encounter should happen and where based on the amount of steps that Tiki Liger took. And when that encounter didn't happen, he knew something was wrong.
I almost sound suspicious. It might come off that way. The world map stuff is nutty. Like, there's a reason we do manips, you know? This is crazy to get this fight right here. Call me suspicious of this. I have to see something.
Dash immediately went and recreated the exact scenario that was playing out in Tiki Liger's run, and reproduced the same amount of steps to make sure that he was correct that the encounter Tiki Liger got was the wrong one. And sure enough, when Dash tested the same variables, a different encounter was triggered. Dash always got the encounter he expected to happen based on the amount of steps Tiki Liger took. He was just not able to replicate what happened in Tiki Liger's run. Now at this point, Dash had been streaming for 9 hours, so he decided to park the run and keep investigating it the next day. And what's very interesting is that after Dash ended stream, the runner Tiki Liger deleted their submission. And not only that, they deleted the video from YouTube.
So that's what I found yesterday. I found something that could not, I don't think, I'm fairly confident in saying, it could not be produced by unaltered FF7 gameplay. And so I said, okay, we'll end the stream for now, though, because I had been streaming for over 9 hours at that point. I was very hungry. I was feeling like I was going to faint, because A, I'm very hungry. B, already been streaming for a long time. C, this kind of thing is very nerve-wracking. I don't want to find a problem with the speedrun, right? I don't want to have to assert that something was illegitimate, you know? And so that kind of, it makes me nervous, you know? And so nervous on top of hunger, fatigue, right? Right, I said, let's watch the rest of this run tomorrow, all right? And so, just in case, because I found this live on stream, just in case someone, tried to delete the video to hide evidence or something like that, I downloaded the run to my computer and I ended the stream. And now here we are today. But, wouldn't you know it, between me ending my stream and me starting my stream today, the run has been deleted off of the FF7 leaderboard submissions. Furthermore, the video itself is also deleted. Not just the speedrun.com submission. The video itself was deleted.
Luckily, Dash was cognizant enough to download the run before this happened. This is already extremely suspicious, and many people would assert that this is already an outright admission of guilt. But things would only get even more bizarre from here. The next day, try as he may, Dash was not able to reproduce what happened in Tiki Liger's run. The only way he could get the same encounter was by using a RAM editor to lower his danger, which would allow him to skip the encounter Tiki Liger should have gotten. So Dash's theory was that Tiki Liger was using tools to see their danger level and step ID in real time, which is obviously cheating. And then Tiki Liger could use a RAM editor to lower their danger level to skip encounters when they didn't take enough steps. Using this method, he was able to perfectly replicate what happened in Tiki Liger's run.
What if I am running the game? Here's the conjecture, right? What if I am running the game and I am looking at this step graph while I'm running, and thus I see that I'm going to clip this encounter? Well, I could just pop into danger up here and just take 100 off of my danger. And there we go. Problem solved. Just a quick little RAM edit, and now just a little bit less danger. And now we get underneath that encounter that I accidentally didn't walk enough. And so then, as you can see, what happens is we don't get this encounter right here. And instead we get this encounter right about where they got theirs. We got it a little bit further behind where they got theirs because I took more steps than they did, and steps put you behind.
Combined with Tiki Liger deleting their submission and video, things were looking pretty open and shut. But midway through Dash's stream, after he had articulated his speculation about how Tiki Liger cheated, things went downhill very fast. First, people in chat pointed out that Tiki Liger had begun to private all of his videos on his YouTube channel. And this wasn't just his Final Fantasy speedruns, this was everything.
Oh, wait a second. Hang on. Are you're telling me that there was actually a YouTube update? You're telling me there's an update? If we were to go to the FF7 leaderboard and we were to go to No Major Skips and find their run. Oh! Okay. Now, I don't think, I mean, is this more suspicious than this already was? The same amount. It's the same amount. It's the same amount. I gotta check something. This was a win-back run earlier. This was not FF7. How about Final Fantasy? Final Fantasy VIII has been privated. The Last of Us even? Okay, so it's everything. So they probably went to their YouTube and just checked all videos and then said private, right? So yeah. So that's just, that I think that's an easy thing to do, right? To go to YouTube and just select all videos private. All right.
And then shortly after that, Tiki Liger completely deleted his entire channel.
Did they? Everything was private before. Oh, now it's been removed.
Unfortunately, the only video that seems to have been saved from any of Tiki Liger's runs was his cheated Final Fantasy VII run, so it's now impossible to determine which of his other runs are legit and which are fake, because they are all deleted. Deleting literally everything was probably the worst option, because I don't have any reason to believe that all of the other speedruns were automatically cheated just because he cheated in one particular game. And it's very hard to determine if deleting everything means that some other runs were faked as well, or if he just decided to rage quit after being caught once. Unfortunately for Tiki Liger, the fact that he deleted everything and he is now known as a cheater means that moderators for other games have no option but to completely remove all of his runs. Cheating in one game doesn't automatically mean you're banned from other games, so if his other runs were still available and could be verified again, albeit with greater scrutiny, I don't see a reason why many of them would still be able to remain on the leaderboards. But by deleting all of his videos, everything is being scrubbed. Before he cheated, he had 125 speedruns listed, and at present, this number has been reduced to 37. And I assume that the number hasn't gone down to 0 simply because word has not yet spread to all of the moderators of all of the other games. Honestly, in my opinion, if Tiki Liger does have legitimate speedruns in other games, especially if they are world records, they should be re-uploaded. At the very least, this gives the other players in these communities the opportunity to vote and make a decision on whether or not they are happy for those runs to remain on the ranks. But I'm also very curious to know what the general public thinks on this issue. Do you think cheating in one game means you should be banned from every other game, or do you think the consequences should be restricted to just the game in which you cheated? Let me know what you think in the comments. Once again, a huge thanks to Dash for reaching out to me and talking to me about this situation. Please go and support his channel. I will put links in the description to his channel and his video on the subject. I don't always say this about everyone, but he does genuinely seem like a really stand-up guy and deserves more attention than he is currently getting. So please go and say hello. Thank you so much for watching, you legends. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I will see you in the next video.